Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everyone. MissNatasha here. I hope you're doing well. Nice to see ya.
Nice to be seen.
I am a mental wellness creative disability advocate, author, and speaker, and the host of the Create Don't Hate show. This time around, we're going to be speaking about mental wellness and womanhood.
Mm,
Um just because I've seen women struggle, I've seen women triumph, and it's a balance and a battle. And you need other people to assist you in that journey. And I figured that why not use this platform to help not only myself, but all of you out there. So I have a lovely guest this afternoon. And I'm going to say the three words I thought of when I decided to ask if you'd like to participate in the Create Don't Hate show. And the first one is loving. The second one is willing to try.
mm.
And the third one is vibrant.
Ooh,
So
love.
I'd love if you could introduce yourself.
Oh my goodness. That's such a beautiful introduction, Miss Natasha. Thank you so much. I'm Karen Clarke, and I'm co-founder of an organization called Aspectrum. And Aspectrum supports neurodivergent folks who are going through life and facing challenges and barriers to maybe finding employment or getting through their post-secondary program or learning to navigate the transit system so they can get back and forth to their appointments and their job. So we kind of provide support in a variety of different ways. Our coaches are all neurodivergent primarily or have lived experience, and which I think brings a really unique lens to our supportive model. And yeah, but super excited to be here, to be lending my voice to yours, to sort of lean into this create, don't hate mantra that you live by, Miss Natasha, and that is contagious, I think, to everyone around you when they meet you. So thank you so much for allowing me to have a voice on your platform. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited.
Thank you and thank you. I just like again, I get so elated with the fact that people say yes. And it this is not only for me, but for others who may not have people to talk to them about certain types of conversations, or maybe not even have thought of what does being mentally well look like to them. So I'll just get started. The first question I have is, how do you demonstrate your support of other women?
Mm. How do I demonstrate my support of other women? I think it's because so many women have demonstrated their support to me, having the ability, the courage, the foundational support to start a business. You lean on your community just even to take that initial leap of faith. And I've leaned on many people, and specifically women, have been huge supporters of my transitions in different employment worlds. So obviously I want to give back. And so I always make time if someone wants to have a conversation, if somebody wants to, if it's whether it's an entrepreneur who is looking to launch their own business and need some advice or some support, or whether it's a potential participant of one of our programs who is exploring next steps for their own professional journeys, or whether it's a family member or friend who needs a voice to sort of needs to have a sounding board for their voice and someone to listen to them objectively. I always make time for people, women in particular, because so much time was made for me and help fortify me and my different endeavors throughout my life. And I don't know where I would have been without that. There's been some critical women in my life, both in my mental health journey and my professional journey and my personal life, who've been critical in their support of me. And so I'm not sure what would have happened if I hadn't had those really strong women pillars to lean on. And hopefully I can be that, even if I can be that to one person, then I feel like I've given back in some way.
Yay. And that's exactly what I aspire to be and what I aspire to do each and every day.
Hmm.
Because again, there are women who along the way have guided me correctly. So it's like giving that, just that alone back is huge. Some people forget and then they just, you know,
I think it's interesting too. Sometimes it's so refreshing to be able to see yourself through someone else's eyes,
yeah.
right? So you're used to seeing yourself in all your limitations sometimes, or at least I'll speak about myself. I sometimes can be very hard on myself and can only see the things I should have done, haven't done, need to do, did incorrectly. And I'm not able to see all the things that I have done well, the things that I can do well, that I have the potential and that I am doing, you know, well, and that people admire. And so when you're able to see yourself through another woman's eyes and see the things that they see and how they see you, I think that's a really important shift in perspective, and it allows you to draw strength from that.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
you do that. You do that really well. You do that really well.
I think that's like one of the things that I love to do. I just say I'm a cheerleader. Because
Mm,
that way it's like simplified, but it's like I just want people to win.
hmm.
And not I don't want to come across insincere. I could come across overly like cheery, but uh I'm not gonna out it. It's a part of me and I appreciate it because it helps me to be closer and understand others. Mhm.
I agree 100%. I definitely agree. And I think that, you know, you've been really helpful in being that lens for me too. Like when I talk to you and I see how you view me, sometimes I got to look over my shoulder and see who you're talking about because it's like, wow, you see me, even the words you used to describe me at the beginning, that really touches me and that really fills my cup. And so I feel like we have a responsibility to continue to create that in other people, right?
And
Hmm.
it's not gonna always be accepted, which is fair, but I'm still gonna give it the good old try, you know?
Who it's meant for, it will find.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
So the next question is, what have you done for yourself in the last month?
In terms of what? Like fulfilling my mental health or fulfilling professional goals? What are
Your
we talking?
mental health and your day-to-day wellness.
Yeah, great questions. So one major thing I did for myself this year, you and I were talking about that before we started recording, was I took a trip for a couple of months on my own. I had an opportunity to support some family who live in California, and sunshine does a lot for my mental health. Solitude, I'm a big proponent of spending time being self-reflective, and it helps my creative process, it helps my mental wellness, it helps my physical well-being. So I took a prolonged kind of hiatus. I still worked, but I left my home that I'm, is my fortress, got out of my comfort zone. I drove in LA. I'm a very anxious driver, so I had to push through some real anxiety to make sure that I had, a way to get around. I'm very proud of myself for that. I had moments where I was still. I had day baths. I took a bath in the morning. I never do that. Started my day with a bath,
Hmm.
just in the sunshine, and it was just beautiful. So I was very fortunate enough to be able to do that, and fill up my cup, which I think I was telling you, I haven't been alone in 28 years since I had my son. So with like a real opportunity, and I'm so glad I did it. And I think that will carry me, that will sustain me for quite a while.
Mm,
And the privilege that I had of being able to pick up and do that, I don't take lightly. I've never been in a position to be able to do that in my life before.
mhm,
But it was definitely seizing on an opportunity, which normally I probably would have turned down because it was just out of the norm for me.
mhm.
Yeah. And to actually put myself first and say, no, I really want to do this. I think that was a huge gift I gave myself this year.
A little rejigging,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
in a sunshiny way is
Yeah. And you don't realize, like, I had a really great cry one night,
hmm
like just all the, when you live with people, like I live with my three children and my partner, and
hmm
so you don't want to have a big guttural cry in the middle of the night. That's gonna
hmm
upset everybody. You might, if you're having a cry, you might cry in the shower, you have a quiet cry in your pillow, but you don't like let it out, and
Yep.
have those big, emotional kind of closure exercise that a good cry can give you. And so that was another gift I gave myself,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. It's what what you're describing sounds like one of those Lifetime or Hallmark movies that I would watch.
Yeah,
The way
almost. I guess
she's like,
I didn't think of it like that. I mean,
yeah,
I did do some mushrooms, so that
yeah, coming back and you're just like refreshed.
yeah. Yeah, no, I came back refreshed and like you said, a good rejig. Like I
hmm
definitely needed that reset for myself.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think as women, we tend to not prioritize things like that, right? We always worried about how that will impact everyone else around us if we take that time to step away and give ourselves. But we're really not doing anybody any favors by not doing that.
no, I learned that the hard way, but also I'm glad I went through it because it made me a better woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right. Um, do you have meaningful friendships with women?
I have incredible, meaningful friendships with different groups of women. I have family members, they're sort of matriarchal figures in my family who are very important to me. Um, I have women who I've been friends with for 30 years
Mm-hmm.
and who've, seen me through childbirth and relationships and divorces and remarriages and challenges with children and all of those things. And I have professional women in my professional sphere that um, have been huge supporters of me and who I really try and support as much as I can as well. Um, and that have helped me navigate my professional journeys and maturing. So yeah, I mean, and I think I would be lost without all of those relationships. They're really critical to my growth and my support and my development.
What do you do? Thank you for that. And what do you do to nourish them?
That is something that I could use some work on.
Mm-hmm.
I am a bit of like I get in my own head with things and I like to isolate when I'm
Mm-hmm.
going through things. And so part of that is withdrawing from sort of social and meaningful relationships. So I've really had to work on that and making sure that I'm not just taking what I need. I also need to be there for when people need me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I have to always be very mindful of, that when I withdraw, that could be at a time when someone actually needs me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I really try and be clear with people that, hey, like, because I live with quite severe depression and anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and that can manifest in different ways and how it impacts my life and others around me. So I've learned over the years to be more transparent. I used to hide it
Mm-hmm.
and try and, like not explain to people that I'm going through something right now where I feel like the need to isolate. But if you need me,
Mm-hmm.
this is the code, use this code, and just text this word and I'll be there for you.
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah, just kind of letting them know. And I've noticed that since I've done that, that it makes it a lot easier to connect because people aren't expecting anything from me but just to show up. If I show up, that's enough. I don't have to be on. I don't have to
Oh,
be, I can just show up and be myself in that period of time, and that's just enough for folks.
yay.
So I think the biggest thing, that's a long-winded way of saying that the way to nourish my relationships and maintain them is to be authentic in them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Goodness. I used to just like a yes master, no master.
What do you mean?
Like usually there's a hierarchical person and that person just says, "Oh, you can do that. You shouldn't wear that. You should do that." You sh-"
Mm,
And I'll just be like, "Yeah, sure, maybe not. No, I shouldn't." Then they'd be like, "What? You should listen." Okay.
mm.
And that was like not working.
So you didn't have a voice.
I didn't use it either. So
You hurt
I
yourself,
learned,
right?
yeah, I learned about that. And it's okay to have boundaries. If you lose them, then maybe they're not really supposed to be
That's so true. And I have lost friends through that.
there.
I've
Right?
lost friends through that where I was like, I'm not going to do this, or this is not something that I'm interested in participating in, and they didn't like it and they were upset with me. And then I realized, okay, those are not the kind of people that I need in my inner circle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
that's okay. That's okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what did you bear or harvest in the last year that wasn't associated with money?
Mm.
Now, I believe I'm going to just put words in your mouth, but I believe that the trip you'd have great answers for that. But you could just give me one. I say, I'm sure.
Yeah, money's not a huge motivator for me, only in that it's a means to an end, but the end is really my motivator. So money is a way to experience life in certain ways, but not certainly seeing a big number in my bank account isn't a huge turn on for me.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing because it's never been the case.
Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely say some of the things that uh, um, I could say were wins for me this year was putting myself first and saying, I deserve some downtime on my own to sort of reconnect with myself. So self-prioritizing. And I think I grew a sense of, I feel a different sort of sense of confidence in myself that's developed, I think, from a year of a kind of hurting a struggling business. Like the
Mm-hmm.
business A Spectrum has been going through its ebbs and flows this year. And keep being consistent and not saying, oh, okay, this isn't working the way I thought. Let me just go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
But sticking to it because the vision is something that I'm passionate in. And I know that with enough persistence, we'll break through the other side and
Mm-hmm.
get the support we need from different funding sources. So that was a big test for me. I think this year was a test
Mm-hmm.
because it was one of the hardest professionally, and having the ability to stick to it because of the vision has been a huge win for me, prioritizing myself and just a sense of growing confidence. Both of those things, I think the end result of doing both of those things, the consistency and the self prioritizing, the other side of that is a renewed sense of confidence that I didn't have previously.
Wow.
Mm.
Because, wow.
Is that landing with you?
Yeah.
Mm.
And just, we're just people. Like, I was trying not to like this simple, but we're just people. And
We're just people.
if we could, like, man, I'm just gonna continue shouting your name and business name to the rooftops because, again, the amount of businesses that are um, for Black autistic youth or Black autistic adults
Mhm.
are about three or four, and we can always use more.
We need more.
Like we need to stop thinking of that kind of a competition way instead of
Mm-hmm.
collaboration way. But it's not going to happen because we don't. I am uh dreamy in my brain, but I'm also very practical in thought. So it's not reality, right? So um but we also can present that there are this many amounts of spaces out there, which means there's a need because of XYZ,
Right.
and your rejigging of yourself is going to propel that.
Yeah, there's a ripple
Propel that to
effect
go.
when you
Yeah.
work on yourself, like there's that old expression like shit rolls downhill. Well, I think
Yeah.
gold definitely rolls up. Like, you know what I mean? So like when you work on yourself, then everything you touch, it has that Midas touch. And you can turn things to gold that previously weren't. So I think working on myself was an obligation that I had so that I could then go forward and pour into a spectrum, and then a spectrum can pour into the people that it supports, and then those people can, so like the ripple effect of me working on myself, I may never even know the impact of that, right?
Your
As many times we don't.
No, we don't. But you got a spectrum is a space that your business model is a model that is like helping people for real. So
Hmm.
there should be monies pouring in. Like it's just like, come on, people. Hello. Like it's
Well, yeah, it would be nice to see more, at least provincial and municipal support, because these are the folks that are voting, to keep these people in their roles, as MPPs and MPs. So it would be nice to see some interest in resources, dedicating some resources to the local folks that keep the constituents in their seats.
I will be interviewing you again with regards to a spectrum. This is an interview for with regards to mental wellness, so
Hmm.
I do plan to do that in the near future.
Yeah.
Um, but the purpose when I first heard about the business, I was just like, what? This is for real? You
Well,
know?
and it came about from my own, like I was on a mental health leave, right? That's part of my story is that I worked for years in the labor market sector. I was seeing things happen that didn't look like they were benefiting the people they were supposed to be supporting. In fact, it looked a lot of times, and we've had this conversation where,
Mhm.
funding would go into a program that really didn't help anybody but the organization that was funding it, right? So people were being told that we're going to get you a job, but then they didn't get the supports they needed to keep that job. And so they'd be back in the employment center, and that employment center would be like, well, we found you a job and here you're back again. So we start the whole process again and we get more funding. So it would be frustrating for me. I was on mental health leave because I'd been diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And so it was at a time when I was like, okay, now what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to something that I feel I'm actually becoming part of the problem, or am I going to create my own solution and take a leap of faith? And I attribute some of that to being able to take that leave. The mental health was sort of a symptom of deeper underlying things of dissatisfaction, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Every time you say it, I just was like, how, like your words, like I say this a lot to people, they think I'm weird, but the words that you use are in direct alignment with what I've like been trying to articulate.
And it means a lot that you're hearing what I'm saying, because sometimes I feel like I put a bunch of words together and I don't even know if they're landing
No.
with people, right? So hearing that it resonates with you and you're getting my message and what I'm trying to express through my own personal experience, that means a lot. So
Hmm.
thank you for that. And it's very validating for people to hear that when they communicate something personal, that it lands with somebody. So thank
Hmm.
you for that.
Definitely. I will always speak up about the business because you both did this with your own two hands and 2 feet
Mhm.
and big hearts. So
Yeah, and you're referencing my co-founder Julian Clarke,
Oh
who's also
yes,
my
yep,
son. Yeah.
yes, yep.
He's been an amazing partner, and also probably one of the main reasons why I'm still in this is his ability to like see the big picture, and fortify his mom and when I need it, and be like, no, we're not quitting. We've got work to do.
Mm,
Mm.
y'all are in my heart.
Oh, you're in ours too. You're in ours too. You've always been such a big champion and supporter of me personally, and then the bigger picture with A Spectrum. So thank you so much for that. It means more than you
Absolutely.
know. Mm.
And in saying that, uh, who were your female influences, past or present?
Oh, great question. I mean, when I think like back in the day, I had an English teacher in
Mm,
grade 7 who really encouraged my me learning how to articulate my thoughts
mm,
and made me feel very valuable in sharing my just essays I would do on, my interpretation of a book or a movie or something. And she would always really put well thought out comments about my thoughts and made me feel very validated. It was one of the first times I remember her name was Miss Hancock, and she was
mm,
lovely. And she really made me feel like I had a voice that was worth listening to. One of the first people in my sort of academic journey.
mm.
Um, yeah. And then there have been people like I have friends that I've met through work who are really critical, were really critical and are really critical in encouraging that professional development. Like if I felt really empathetic towards a participant, a client that I was working with, that would be encouraged, right? To go above and beyond for that person as opposed to like being told, no, that's not, you shouldn't be doing that much, or you should scale it back. I had folks that really were like, run with that. You know what I mean? Who cares? Like apologize later, but just do what you got to do to get that person's support. Having worked in sort of a homeless shelter situation for several years, and kind of having to push back against some of the restrictions that we faced there as a service employer, um, a service organization rather. So women there have been really critical. And then I think of women, I mean, I think of Kamala Harris, right? Recently, who was up against incredible odds, and has been for years, and just for the sake of doing what's right, sacrificed her own probably sleep and sanity and, mental well-being to be able to run and put herself under scrutiny the way she has for the betterment of her country and our world. So
Mhm.
yeah, so there's been very critical women like yourself. Like
Mm,
you've been really inspirational as a young Black woman with autism who had entrepreneurial goals and a vision. And I see how, we've had many conversations about the frustrations and also the victories, right?
yeah.
And we've found community with one another and throughout our circles as we network and meet more like-minded sisters like ourselves. So it's wherever you least expect it, you'll find it sometimes, right?
You're darn right.
Yeah, when you're least expecting it, someone pops up and throws their support behind you and makes you feel like, you've got shoulders to lean on.
Yeah. We're
Even my
team.
family too. I need to mention like the women in my family. Like I have
Mhm,
2 daughters who have been incredible at,
mhm,
holding a mirror up to me and also, and showing me what I do well and where I can improve.
mhm.
Mm,
Shouts out to them.
mm,
Trailblazing.
mm-hmm.
Oh yes. Okay. So I'll get into one more or two more questions.
Sure.
The second last one, or maybe okay. How did you learn to be a woman?
Ooh, I'm still learning that one because it
Mm-hmm.
changes every day, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think an interesting part of my journey of being a woman has been embracing my masculine energy more, if that makes sense. That's been an interesting part of my journey of being a woman. Um, I find like even just I used to want to, everything I did was to sort of get positive male gaze, be
Mm,
to get male approval, whether it be how I looked or
mm,
how I spoke. So that used to be definitely used to be a priority, whereas now I find as I've aged, I'm less inclined to seek that out. It means a lot more sometimes to get approval from women in my community
mm,
than it does certainly for men. But I remember growing up and always thinking I needed that approval, both
mm.
professionally and personally. I think that's been a big part of my journey. Um, and I think just coming into my own, but I think that comes with age, not necessarily with my gender. And then also understanding too that there are women who identify as women that don't necessarily look the way I look or sound the way I sound, but that they are also a part of the community of women who self-identify as women that I embrace as well. So opening up that community because the
Yeah.
more the merrier to me. So yeah, I think that's been part of my journey of coming into my own as a woman is realizing that I am not look who I am and what I look like as a woman is not necessarily, you don't have to look like me to be a woman. You don't need to have the same origin story that I do to be a woman and part of the community.
Yes.
Hmm.
I had a lot of comments about you're not a black woman.
Mm.
You're not a like they say they project, but then when you think about it, who's they?
Who's they?
And then it could slowly get away from you, you know?
Well, there's so much intersection there. Like when you add blackness into that, like, I mean, are you black enough? Do you sound black enough? You know, like there's a lot of intersection of black being a black woman that brings whole different layers of complexity to it.
Yeah. I actually changed one of the titles to my interviews, mental wellness for all, not only mental wellness for women and not only
Mm.
mental wellness for men.
Mm.
So I can be able to be more inclusive. So I'm gonna make a video about it tomorrow because I learned something that I'm hating by not putting some corrective verbiage. So I'm gonna change it so I can widen my interviewing demographic.
I love that.
Yeah,
Right? Any opportunity that we learn on how to like be more inclusive. We're
yeah,
always learning, we're always evolving. We're not, I don't proclaim to be an expert at it. I'm just learning,
right.
evolving like everyone else. So when I know better, I do better.
That's right.
Hmm.
And that's all we ask of some of you out there.
Hmm.
To make our lives much more at ease. I think we are all entitled to ease
Hmm.
when what it looks like is differing for many, but the point is can I relax now? Can I go to the store and be relaxed?
Mm.
Can I go to the mall, the doctor?
Safe.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? All those
Yeah.
places and be relaxed.
Hmm.
Some people can't even be relaxed in their own homes because of this mess.
Exactly.
So I really do I really do uh applaud you for not giving up and continuing on with what you like what you dream of seeing. Mhm.
Thank you.
All right. So the I'll just go with the last question.
Okay.
How do you create instead of hate each and every day?
Ooh. Well, this last couple of week was hard. I'm not gonna lie. I did a little bit of hating when I watched the outcome of the US
Yeah,
election.
yeah.
So it's hard sometimes when things don't go your way. Sometimes instinctually we can just want to lash out in anger. And then I had a great conversation the day after the election with a woman who we'd gotten on the call. It was a business call. Neither one of us had met before. And she brought up the elephant in the room. She was like, I'm really sorry. I might come across a bit low energy today. I'm actually really down because of the way the election went. And I was so appreciative of that, that she just spoke life into the elephant in the room and was able to sort of share with someone she didn't even know her frustrations about it. And then that turned into a 2-hour conversation. We did speak a bit about why we, originally booked the call, but a lot of it was just talking about how we can take back our power by, and it might not be these huge things. We might not be running for president of the United States, but what we can do is in our own small ways positively impact our worlds. So, yeah. So, and that's how we create instead of hate. So we take the things that we have power to change or power to influence or power to impact, and we inject positive influence on those things that are attainable. And again, the ripple effect of that, who knows what that could be. Like I could work with somebody who needs to learn how to ride the transit system, and they end up going on and having a great political career and running or changing the outcome politically of the landscape in this country. Who knows? Because they had access to a job or an interview or, a situation that allowed them to advance. So we'll never know the positive impact of the things we do, but what we do know is that they will have positive impact. We don't need to know, right? We just have to believe. So I think that you create instead of hate by having faith that what you create has a bigger impact than you ever realize. And that sustains you.
Wow.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope that this conversation can be viewed and understood in the right context, in the right ways,
Yeah.
so then it can assist another in doing what you just said. That's the whole point of this.
That's what you're doing, Miss Natasha. You're providing a platform for people you're providing the formula for people to create instead of hate, right? You're giving
Yeah.
them, you're making it easy. So thank you for the work that you're doing, one person at a time, one interview at a time, one, networking event at a time, where
Mhm.
you're introducing your concept and your idea and your philosophy of life to people and giving them the opportunity to, manifest that within themselves. So thank you for the work that you're doing,
Thank you.
sincerely.
I
Mhm.
always wanted to meet lawyers of color, nurses of color, doctors of color, judges of color. And in the last 2.5 years since I've been working on this, I have.
Mhm.
I have. I shook their hand. I've talked with them a couple minutes, and I'm hoping that it will flourish into real community connections to help other people. Because I am not doing this for to look pretty.
Mhm.
I actually never thought of myself as pretty growing up. What I wanted to do is build things and do things, and but I just never focused my mind on how to make those things actually happen. But again, some people say only in due time,
Mhm.
which is I had to create instead of hate with myself
Right?
or to make this start to occur start to
100%. You got to walk the walk, honey, or
mm-hmm,
nobody's believing it if you're not
mm-hmm,
living it authentically yourself. Yeah, and you are. I believe.
mm-hmm. So in saying that, um I usually ask if there's anything else you'd like to finish with, but I'm gonna say why I started Create Don't Hate, and then I will ask then after I'm done, just to give you a little bit of time to think about something.
Thank you.
Create Don't Hate was born out of frustration. The frustration of individuals hating on other individuals with differences. We wanted to start a movement of hope, courage, and love and build community and connection in the process. Create Don't Hate is a real practical way of sharing hope to those who have been muted and shut down because of who they are. Create Don't Hate is and always will be an anthem that I would play to get through the tough times. So I ask you, Karen, what would you like to leave everyone with before we say goodbye?
Okay, well, thank you so much again for the opportunity to have my voice heard on such a safe platform, one that feels like I can be myself and in all my glorious imperfections and sort of share who I am and be well received. And so thank you so much for providing that for me. And if there's anything, I guess I wanted to sort of leave this opportunity, sort of the last message I'd like to share. I guess I'd like to talk just a bit about the mental health piece and how sometimes we feel like it's such a big inhibitor, but a lot of times we put really unrealistic pressures on ourselves. And I feel like, and I can only speak from my experience, but with mental health, it's just forced me to listen to myself more, right? And it's forced me to trust my own intuition, my own gut feelings on things. If my body and my brain is telling me today's not the day to take a call, I will now reschedule that call without feeling guilty about it. Or if I'm feeling really low, but I know if I push myself, I can get up and shower and do 1 hour of work, and that's a win on certain days. So I think it's taught me to be compassionate with myself, but that I can still move. Even though it's uncomfortable, even though there are days when I really have to push, even when pushing means allowing myself to sit with feeling uncomfortable doing nothing, right? Because that's the gift I have to give myself that day. So I think if I could sort of urge anybody living with mental health who is also maybe trying to start a business or looking after a family or, going to work every day, that to be kind and compassionate with yourself and that you can still move and there are still gains to be made. They may not look like you would originally have thought them to look, but rarely does anything ever turn out to be exactly as we foresee it to be.
Mm-hmm.
The journey might be different, but be kind, be compassionate to yourself, and treat yourself the way you would treat someone else who's coming to you with the same kind of scenario. Someone to share with you, they're going through this challenge. How would you talk to them? What kind of love and support would you show them? And then turn that inward. That would be my parting words to folks, I guess.
That is lovely.
Mm.
Can you please, can you please also let everyone know where they can contact you if they'd like to learn more about your business?
Sure. So we're on Instagram, a spectrum at a spectrum Inc. You can follow us on Twitter, same handle, or our website, www.aspectrum.ca, or you can contact me directly at info@aspectrum.ca.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
It was.
I
And
hate interviews, but I could do this with you all the time.
good. That's lovely. Thank you all for joining. Please subscribe and share and like this post. Please comment how you decide to create instead of hate each and every day. And
Mm.
we'll see you later.